Hi, it's Leah Richheimer. Welcome to the Ladies Talk Show. We are on Chapter 5 of Marriage Secrets, and we have so many questions from Chapter 5. We're going to cover them all here. This is a Q&A session. We're going to go right into it. Go ahead, Faggy. What's our first question?
Okay, so Tova is asking, how do we grow ourselves to become bigger vessels to receive more bracha through our husbands?
Oh, that's great. So it's actually like a muscle. The more you thank, the bigger a vessel you become, the more of a receiver you become. So the more you thank, the larger you grow. That's how you grow yourself, is by saying thank you and feeling thank you and appreciation and trying to have an ayin tov and looking at everything your husband does and being grateful for it instead of picking out everything he does that annoys you, which is easy to do. Okay. Wink, wink. We're women. We're smart. We know he should have done this that way. He should have whatever. Why did he open the fridge? He left the fridge open. He all day long. We could stand behind your husband and follow him around, and we could point out everything he did, not the correct way to. Okay, that's it. I think it might be kind of fun, actually. It probably cause a lot of problems, but hey, guess what? We already do that. Our brain goes to judgment. Our brain goes to what he did wrong. We're mad about this, so we take it out on the fact that he didn't butter his toast right and it crumbled all over the counter. And now I've got to clean it up. Everything he does can be annoying. That's called living under the same roof as another human being. Okay. So how he's chewing, how he's breathing, everything can become a part of being annoyed. We could make that our life's work. That is what is natural in the world. Supernatural and godlike is to overcome our instinct to judge and put down and pick out the bad. And what's godlike and awesome is to spend our days picking out the beautiful things that they're doing. And that's actually your homework. I'm giving your homework early. I'll give it again. Your job is to spend a day picking out all those good things. Okay, next question, Faggy. Beautiful question.
Okay, this might be like another part to the previous question. Shira is asking, I've been trying to work on being a bigger receiver, but unfortunately, a new challenge has arisen, and I'm starting to resent my husband for our lack of bracha. How do I work on not resenting my husband while we're going through this difficulty?
She's got an error in thinking, which is that her husband brought the difficulty. It's God himself who brought that difficulty. Now, maybe it was through her husband. Maybe, unfortunately, her husband is the one, who quit his job thinking, I'll do better, and I'm running my own company, and now they're disaster, and so maybe it looks like it's her husband's fault for whatever has befallen them. But she has to know this challenge is from Hashem, and she has to, in her mind, say, am I going to go for shalom, or am I going to make things worse in this situation? That's her test. Her test is, in the face of this test that God gave you, that your husband did something that looks like it was his fault, okay? In the midst of that, is she still going to go for shalom? Is she still going to be forgiving? Is she still going to cook his favorite meals for him? Is she still going to be kind to him? Is she still going to stop resenting him and bring him close instead of pushing him away in the face of this disaster in their life? That's her test. And her olam haba will depend one way or the other. Where is she going with it? And she might stumble a little bit and keep blaming him, and then wake up and say, oh, I'm going to do tshuva. I'm going to bring him closer, even though I think it's his fault, but it's really from God. Everything is from God. Ein od milvado. Everything is from God. This is from God, and I'm going to bring shalom, even in the face of this. Can you imagine if you were Hashem and you were looking down and, and you witnessed her make that transition? What would you do? Would you still punish her? Or would you try and mitigate it, make it easy? A lot of people who go through hard things, they say, it's unbelievable. We went through this hard thing, but there were so many signs that God was with us every step of the way. I know somebody and their kid was sick or whatever, and then the doctor, they happened to have somebody who came in who was a first cousin of somebody else. So even in their difficulty, they had somebody who was putting their arm around, the kid, and everything has its silver lining if we look for it. Silver lining meaning in a difficult situation, there's goodness there too if we look for it. And if you are going through a difficult time and you yourself are making the choice to still work on shalom and still bring your husband close, God will take even more care of you, just as you would with a kid. If a kid was going through a hard time and they were like, oh, hey, why do I have to clean the room? Everybody's clean. I didn't even make the mess and whatever, you'd be like, you just be madder and madder at this kid, clean up more. And you didn't clean under the bed and you didn't, whatever. Whereas if the person said, if the kid was there and you told them to clean, I'm like, it's not really fair. I'm cleaning up everybody else's stuff. I'm doing it, but it's not really fair. You'd be like, oh, you want some cookies? Okay. All right, Peggy, what's the next question?
Okay, so Malka is asking, how do we balance needing our husbands but not being too annoyingly needy?
Fine. Here's the thing. I'm going to give you a gift right now. Listen carefully. It is fine to be too needy. You're a woman. You can be needy. We've been indoctrinated for 7 decades, okay, about we shouldn't be needy, we should be independent, we should do everything ourselves, okay? That's what we've been taught for, like the air that we breathe. And the problem with that is God does not want independence. He wants interdependence, both from a husband and a wife being interdependent, children being dependent on their parents, community members being dependent on each other, Klal Yisrael being community being interdependent on each other, and Klal Yisrael being interdependent on each other, that we all need each other. And neediness has been given such a stinking rotten name. Like, you can't be needy. It's fine to be needy. Now, there is a difference between being needy, which we all are, and we all can admit to, and we're all great with being needy. It's good, and being demanding. So you just want to separate those two. To being demanding, oh, and you do this for me, and whatever. But it's fine to say, can you, I did, all the mail. This last one, I can't call this person. Do you mind doing it? Done in a nice way. And if he says no, can you just take care of it? So then you might have to do it. Your request is in a way that isn't a demand of you need to take care of this. I'm not doing it. Neediness is just is that feeling that soliciting help, and we need to do that more often. It makes us vulnerable, which is a bad word in today's society, okay? But that being needy, we have to acknowledge in ourselves, and then we need to express it in a way to our husband that doesn't come out as demanding, and that doesn't come out like we're a weakling. We're all weak in our certain ways or whatever, but I mean, like, that he has to do everything for us. What do I do about this? And what do I do? Nobody wants some kind of, pathetic waif, So, you can be strong and be needy at the same time, and it's fine to acknowledge your neediness as long as it's not demanding. Excellent question. Okay, Peggy, you're up for the next question.
That's very good news that we women are allowed to be needy.
Yeah, good.
Very good news.
Good.
Okay. Rachel is asking, is it fair that bracha in the house comes only through the husband? Is there no blessing coming in the house in the wife's merits?
Excellent question. Okay, so this is going to be complicated. It's above my pay scale, but I'm going to answer it as best as I can using Rav Usher Weiss's genius explanation of this. It's in, I don't remember what page, but it's in Marriage Secrets. Marriage Secrets, okay. So here's the thing. A woman could be doing mitzvahs all day long, and that is merit that accrues to the household. And it goes up to Shemayim, and it sits there. Okay, completely sits up in Shemayim. It cannot get to their house. The bracha that she is creating is unable to come to the house and it only can come in one way, which is through the husband. The husband bestows that bracha onto the home. Okay, so you're getting the picture? I'm doing all my mitzvahs, all the brachas going up there, but it doesn't come into the home except through my husband. And the way it flows through my husband is that if I'm the receiver, and I'm thanking and I'm appreciative for it. Brilliant question. Okay, go ahead, Peggy.
Next question. Danielle is asking, is this the wife receiving and the husband being a giver, the most important thing to work on for shalom bayis? My husband and I have been struggling a lot recently, and I haven't even known where to begin in terms of what I need to work on. Is this it?
This is it. Saying thank you. It's it. That is what is going to bring the flow of bracha into your home. And that's what which it stretches you from being a little receiver to a bigger receiver, big receiver. Okay, size of an ocean. Okay, God can fill a swimming pool, a bathtub, a pond, an ocean full of bracha, dependent on how big a receiver you are. And how big a receiver you are, you can tell. If you are thanking your husband for something once a day, this is your size of yours. If it's twice a day, 10 times a day, 100. If you are that, like everything your husband does, you are both feeling the appreciation and saying, you don't have to say it every little thing he does. Thank you for the fork. Thank you for the knife. Thank you for the napkin. But it's a constant feeling in yourself that you're appreciative of him, and he can tell. You need to say it a lot. Whatever you're doing right now, multiply it by 10, and that's how much you should be appreciating him. But also, if you are sitting in the car, like you say something like, oh, thanks for driving. He's like, she's thanking me for driving. Like, hello, there's a contentment that comes to a man with that kind of a thing. And and you could just be smiling, like he comes and you're sitting at the table and you're waiting for him or whatever, and then he comes and you smile. That's being a receiver. You're receiving his presence. Excellent question. Okay, go ahead, Peggy.
Okay, Talia is asking, I have a very hard time receiving compliments from my husband. I work on just saying thank you, but he can tell how awkward I feel even when I try to be gracious. What can I do?
That's good. So the introspection necessary to figure out why you're not letting the compliment in. I mean, maybe when you were a kid, there's some weird dynamic. Maybe your mom, said things, but she didn't really mean it. I had an example of a woman whose mom would say, oh, where do you want to go eat? And they're like, oh, let's go to Schnitzli or, whatever. And the mom, no, that's a stupid location. That sounds terrible food. Let's go here. So her whole life, her opinion was asked for, but then invalidated. And so even now, she's a very, very successful woman. And she said she still feels like what she says isn't really being heard by her staff, by her boss, by her husband, because that was deeply ingrained in her. So this woman, if she isn't able to accept compliments, she needs to do the introspection of looking into her history, maybe with her her family of origin, maybe with a sibling, maybe with her husband or something, and see what stops her from accepting a compliment. And the key here, and this is very, there's a lot of healing that goes on in marriage. God was very kind in giving us each other. If she is able to express to her husband, boy, when I was a kid, my mom used to really put me down or judge me, or my father, was always short with me. And that's why I have a hard time accepting compliments, or I feel like, my aunt was very phony and she always complimented me. And it was always suspect. And then I would always turn around where she'd want something from me. I don't know, whatever the dynamic was. And the woman shares it with her husband and says, this is very hard for me. And, and it makes me not be able to accept your compliments. And I want to be the wife who accepts your compliments. So, do you have a way? And again, she's giving him the problem in his lap and saying, is there a way you can think of where I can grow myself in this area? And he might say, you just need to accept it. That might not be so helpful. Or maybe that's the exact thing she needs to hear to really get it through her head. Or the husband might say, how about when I give you a compliment, at the end of it, I'll say, I really mean it. Would that help you? And she's like, yeah, that might, let's give that a try. And it's kind of a give and take. Is this crazy? You're taking care of this little tiny detail of a woman's feelings. That's his job, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to take care of you in that way if you let him. So some men are very klutzy, and they, maybe they're bullheaded and they may not get to these subtleties or whatever. But with a soft wife, if you express these things in a vulnerable way, in an honest way, in an authentic way, and you're truly seeking his advice and his help in this, please God, you'll have the siyata dishmana to be able to say it in a way, God's help to be able to say it in a way that he can really help you and heal you and get you in a place with a very, very healthy, and you'll feel that place in yourself that needs your husband's approval and his thinking well of you. We have many sources that a woman needs her husband's approval, and women are like, Leah, are you serious? Are you serious? I'm good on my own. Thank you very much. We have so many sources from it. This is how God made us. We do need his approval. It's very annoying. And sometimes they don't necessarily seem like they need ours, but they do. But anyway, owning that and embracing that within ourselves allows us to get that really, really deep need met. Okay, great question. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, Shelly is asking, I feel like my husband is starting to feel resentment towards me since I'm trying to be healthier and he's noticing it. I told him we can do it together, but he has no interest. He doesn't want me losing weight. What can I do to help him understand that this is what I want for myself?
That's interesting. Send her a box of cookies. No. Let's see. That's really interesting. I wonder why he doesn't want her losing weight, if that's what she wants. It could be maybe he's threatened if she got so thin, other people would look at her. I'm trying to understand. Can you ask her to maybe send in a follow-up and explain if she knows what he says? As she asked him, why don't you want me to lose weight? Or why don't you want me to be healthier? Because it's that, I mean, unless he doesn't want, maybe she's putting too much energy in it. Maybe she's, now he has to have lettuce for dinner every night. It's like, enough, but yeah, if you could, let's follow that up. Maybe that person can answer the question. Go on to the next question, Faggy.
Okay, Charney is asking, how do you teach your husband to do more for you, like helping at home and with the kids, so you should always have what to thank him for?
Good question. I wouldn't demand anything more of your husband than you absolutely have to. That's a quala. That's a thing that you should work on, because the less he has to do at home, the more emotional energy he'll be able to support you. But it's a shift in her own mental attitude about a husband can do nothing and a wife should appreciate him, because all the bracha is coming from him. There's nothing in your home. There's no grain of rice. There's no tablecloth, the clothes you're wearing, the jewelry you have, the light, the light bill. Even you pay all the bills and he is sitting on the couch. No bracha. There's nothing in your home that isn't from your husband's bracha. So her saying he has to do stuff for her to appreciate him misses completely the point altogether. She should appreciate him because he's the source of all of her bracha, regardless if he does absolutely nothing. And once she internalizes that, this isn't Leah Richheimer's good idea. This is God explained this to us. This is God's word telling us how it is and how the bracha is in the home. And it's 100% from her husband. So if she can internalize that very, very difficult fact, okay, very difficult to own that, and like, oh my gosh, really? But I have 10,000 women behind me who said that once they were able to makabel that and understand that and realize the reality of the world, this is in the Bria, this is the Bria. Once they're able to realize that, guess what? It gave them the ability to draw down more bracha into their home because they understood how the Bria works. Good luck to you. You're going to see miracles. Watch. Okay, Peggy, go ahead. Did we get an answer from that other lady?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, fine.
I just want to say it's a good thing the men are not listening to this.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
We keep this stuff.
Wouldn't be too good.
Yes.
Okay. The very asks, my mother-in-law keeps telling me how to cook and clean the way she did for her son. My husband tells me not to listen to her. I can't ignore her. I don't want to disrespect her. What do I do?
Well, so you've got two things on your side. One is your husband says not to listen to her. And that secondly, which is good on your husband, good, smart husband. And the second thing is that kividava aim doesn't include doesn't include, what's the word I'm looking? I hate the word abuse. I'm not qualified to use the word abuse, but control, maybe I'll say. You know, the mother-in-law is being controlling of you. And kividava aim doesn't mean that you have to negate your own self or your own identity or your own opinions of how you want to run your household. It's really none of our business. And actually, I spoke with a gadol a few months ago, and he was talking about how but a huge percentage of divorces today are caused by meddling from the in-laws. That the marriage could have gone along fine just as it is, but the in-laws come in and they make demands or they make expectations or they somehow come in and mess everything up. And that huge numbers of divorces are being caused by the in-laws. So if you're an in-law, take note. Get yourself some. Actually, this is regular duct tape. Is there such a thing as heavy duty duct tape? You know, you need double stick. You know, you need to just stay out. What does it? Keep your mouth closed and your pocketbook open. Okay, so everybody needs to work on it. If you're an in-law, stay out of it. Not your business. They're letting the kids walk around barefoot outside in the winter with no coats on. Duct tape. That's not your business. How that she's cleaning, what she's doing, how she's cooking, what recipes, not your business. You had your turn. You were the mother. You raised your kids. You had your turn. It's your daughter and son, or your daughter-in-law and son-in-law, or whatever. It's their turn now. You stay out of it. So in terms of honoring her mother-in-law, the best way to deal with something like this, but thank God, Baruch Hashem, that her husband is on her side with this. She needs to have a closer relationship with her mother-in-law, if possible, and go out to lunch with her and say, you know, Mom, you know, that always warms a mother-in-law's heart to call them Mom, I want to talk to you about something. I really love you. I'm so grateful to you. You raised such a beautiful son, and I feel like we're close in our relationship with you. I'm close enough to be able to tell you that I feel a little bit like sometimes when you are instructing me on how you want things to go or what they want, it hurts my feelings. I feel like you don't love me for who I am. You want me to be another way. That's one way to say it. You know your mother-in-law maybe a little bit better. You know, you could run it by your husband, maybe how you should say it. Maybe it's a disaster altogether. Maybe the mother-in-law is dysfunctional or has mental illness, and you can't have a good conversation with her. You should check with your husband. Have you ever had a conversation with her where she's changed or moved or improved? If none of that's true, and then having this conversation could damage things. She could get a vendetta against you and convince the father-in-law that you're terrible and that you said these mean things to her. So this is very, very touchy-feely, scary type of a situation. But if you could have the conversation with her, that would be ideal. You know, that would be ideal if it's doable. Run it by your husband-in-law, but you'd have your husband run it by. But when you have that conversation with her, it's just telling her from your own perspective how her treating you makes you feel. It's a very, very touchy subject. You have to, before you take any actions on it, you need to think it through very, very clearly. Sometimes journaling about it or writing down the feelings you have and the emotions out gets them out on paper, so you don't bring her with this whole big heavy duty drama, you know, make matters even worse. So sometimes they say, oh, write the letter, but don't send it. That might be a good thing to do here, to write a letter and all the things that really upset you about her and what she's doing and how it makes you feel and how it makes problems in your own marriage and how it, you know, works at it undermines your self-esteem, et cetera, et cetera. Write all that stuff out and then wait a week or a day or a month or whatever until significant time has passed, and then go back through the paper and think, what can I share here that's going to be productive? and what can she hear? And, what type of person is she? Is she going to be listening to what I have to say, or is everything I say going to make her madder and steamier? In which case, maybe you need to speak with a Rebbitzin or a Rav or a therapist to figure out the best way to handle it. Okay, that's all we have time for today. I'm so glad you joined us. And the homework, you spend the day finding things that you are good about your husband, the good points. Don't be the prosecuting attorney looking for the things he did wrong. Look for everything he does right. It's Leah Richheimer. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.